Hey guys, it's Deborah. I wanted to just talk to you about some red heifer news and some updates. It might be stuff you guys already heard. I'm just going to break down a video that the Temple Institute just came out with. I'm just going to play the video and I'm going to give my insight here and there. So it's a much longer interview, and it's an interview of the man who basically found the red heifers that currently are in Israel. If you don't know about this, there's a need for red heifers that have never had a yoke on them. They've never worked. They've never been tagged. They don't have any injuries or blemishes. They have no white hairs, or they can have only, I think, 5 or less white hairs. This is needed for the temple, not to be built, but to cleanse the population. Basically, it's like a ritual cleansing. I believe it's in Leviticus or might be Numbers. Sorry, guys. It's going to say in the interview, but basically the need for the red heifer is partially to help build this third temple and get the sacrifices going again. And so this is all part of end times biblical prophecy. And I won't get into all that because most of you guys already know, and you might have already heard this interview, but it was really, really interesting. And it does give a lot of hope and insight. Sorry, I'm getting a message as I'm talking. Anyway, there's a lot going on in my house. I hear some noise outside my door. Like, my family is just really out there living life, and they allowed me to take this little time to do this. So I'm going to start up the video. And like I said, I'm just cutting bits and pieces so that it is just like the main points that I wanted to talk about. But if you want to hear the full interview, I will link it in the pinned comments at the top of the comments. I'll put the link to the full interview. But it is really interesting. And he talks about the Shemitah year. He talks about just the Messiah coming and where we are at with all that. And when we have to, when he has to, what age the heifers have to be part of the temple sacrifice in this scenario, and like how old they have to be and all that. So let me start off. I'm not going to start it from the beginning. I'm going to start it just from where I feel like it's most interesting for us watching biblical end times, because this is from Israel. This is a Orthodox Jewish man who is basically found a way to find these red heifers, and he tells the story how he found it. He found them in the United States, and it's like I've said before, the word Jerusalem, USA, is in Jerusalem. And that was the Jews' home for so long. When they were they were meant to leave Spain, the mass majority of them at one point had to leave. And then they found a new home when America was discovered. And there was like a whole blood moon tetrad during that time when America was discovered, and this became the Jews' new home until it was time for 1948 to bring them back to Israel. And I mean, it's just amazing that this really has happened, that this has happened. So anyway, now most of them are home. But the United States still provided the piece that they were looking for, which is these red heifers. So let me start off the interview. But again, it's not going to be from the beginning. And then I'll just pop in and out and just give my opinion and comments here and there.
And eventually we got to a farmer, very interesting, where we call him up and he says, listen, I have what you're looking for. I have here Miss America. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm a rabbi, Miss America, I'm not sure what you So he said, no, Miss America, like the cow, Miss America. Like apparently there's these competitions, fairs, and all these, all across America for like the most beautiful cow in so many different ways. And basically he raises or breeds these cows, and he won many times, multiple times, Miss America in his cows. People come to him to buy his cattle. If you guys are cowboys out there and you want a really good cowboy here, this is a good advertisement for him. Urbanowski, that's his ranch. It's around like an hour away north of Houston. But anyhow, so we get to his farm, and he put aside for us these 3 red heifers. One of them was not good, but the other 2 were unbelievable. And it was like the most exciting moment to be there, have Rav Ariel and some other rabbi from Israel on the Zoom. And we're there on the farm, and we're searching, and we're looking, and we're checking every hair, and we're going back and forth. And we're like, she's perfect. These 2 are just perfect. It was the chills that day. And the excitement was huge. And then we went to another farmer, and here we'll open up. These guys, their name is Davenports. They're very special, two brothers that started this farm. In the 90s, when they started the farm, because they wanted to take over, the grandfather had a farm, their father went out of business, and they wanted to come back to it. And they said, okay, what are we going to raise? And one of the Davenports, his name is Ty, he said, we need red Angus. And not only do I want red Angus, I want the most reddest Angus one could find, because they're very, very connected to Christianity and to the Bible. And they said, the temple's going to need the red Angus at some point, because we read it in the numbers. And so if we're already going to go for a cow, let's go for red Angus. And they start to raise these cattle. This is in the 90s we're talking here.
So I just wanted to say that, isn't that amazing that these ranchers from the 90s were Christians, and they realized one day the temple is going to need a red heifer, so that's what we're going to start to breed. I mean, wow, that was from the 90s. So God sure has a plan obviously he has plans from the beginning, but it's just amazing to know that we're seeing the end result of something these ranchers thought of in the 90s as Christians. So yeah, let me continue.
From a friend to a friend to a friend, we got to this farm, and they didn't see our ads, they didn't know about them, but because of the friend that did see, and from another one, at the end we got to them and we sat with them, and we're inside of the living room, and one of the brothers, Ty, comes out, cowboy hat, cowboy boots, the whole 9 yards, beautiful, like a very Texan accent. Me coming from Israel, I could understand probably every other word, but it was really, really a special sight. And then his brother walks in. Now, his brother, he has a suit, no tie, but like a suit, looking good, no cowboy hat. And we're like, what do you do? I mean, he said, listen, I'm with my brother, we're partners, but I also am inside in the diamond business. Mm-hmm. I'm a jeweler. I have diamonds also in the Bursa in Tel Aviv, in the Ramat Gan, but also all around the world. And then it just hit us. We're like, what? Do you know the story of Dama ben Atina? And here I want to tell everybody here the story. This is exactly what I told him. I told him there's this Talmudic story of Dama. He was a son of Natina, and in the times the high priest had the ephod on him, and he was missing one of the Choshen stones, one of the 12 stones. Yeah. The breastplate is missing one of those 12 stones. And they heard that there's this jeweler in the area of Ashdod, or Ashkelon, this is in the Roman period, that he's a jeweler, a Gentile. And they said they have to go, that's where you'll find that stone. So they went to him, they knocked on the door, and the Dama answered. Natina, Dama says, my father is sleeping. But if you would like, come back in a few hours. I'm sure the key to the safe, I'll be able to, I'll be able to open it up, and we'll be able to sell you this stone. And it costs X. They said, no, listen, you don't understand. We're from the temple. We need it now. We'll give you 10X for that stone immediately. Every minute that's passing, the priest doesn't have it on him. We want it now. He said, no, I'll explain to you. My father's sleeping, and I respect my dad. I don't want to wake him up. I'll wait. The second he wakes up, I'll come out to you. I'll tell you. But you guys please wait here. And they're like, what? Okay. So they waited. There's nothing, he didn't give another option. The father woke up from his nap, and he then, of course, opened the stone and showed it to them. And they were like, that's it. We're buying it. And here's 10X. He said, no. I don't want 10X. It costs X. I don't want you to buy my merit for this stone. So they said, we've never seen something like this. And they said, you will be blessed. And we also know this, from Jacob, those that bless Israel will be blessed. You will be blessed. And the truth is, the following year, in his herd, he had a small herd, a red heifer was born. And they brought that red heifer to the temple, and it was used, and it was one of the 9 red heifers that were used in history. We know that the Mishnah talks about that there's been 9 red heifers used to date. The Maimonides comes around 900 so years ago, says that the 10th will come in the Messiah, will be the one in the times of Messiah, or that the Messiah will be the one that actually will sacrifice the 10th. So basically one of those 9 are coming from Dama ben Atina's ranch.
So these two brothers, Gentiles, just like in the story in the Talmud, and he's a jeweler and a rancher, and the whole story was about kibbud avein, about honoring your father, and it was the merit of his tremendous honor of his father that this all came about, and that the red heifer was born. And now your story is contemporary, modern, up to date. We're seeing the same thing all over again. Amazing.
And you know what? I didn't think about it even till this moment that you just said it, actually, is that now that I think about it, when they said that one of the reasons why they started the farm was like, to honor kind of the family and to honor their fathers,
Wow.
And all of a sudden, so going back to that living room, we said, okay, so let's go out. We'll see if you have any red heifers. And the truth is, we found by them 3 red heifers that day that were perfect. They were most beautiful things ever. I mean, one of them was born 3 days before we came.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And the truth is, we found even more red heifers over the period of the next few months. And they were very, very special to actually dedicate these towards the Jewish people and towards the Red Heifer project and to everything that we're doing here. So those are just some of the stories, and there's many more to go on. But just one small nuance is that we say the Red Heifer is a ceremony. It's not exactly a sacrifice. And in Hebrew, I mean, we say ceremony is called a tekes. And if you think about those words, tekes and texis is where we found them. They're pretty. It's another small nuance.
That's pretty cool. So you found a large number of red heifers, and you could keep finding them clearly. Now, each of these red heifers were not tagged, correct?
Yeah, these specific ones, we had an eye on them and cameras and watching over them from pretty much from the day they were born, to make sure that they go by all the laws and all the rules. And I mean, the issue was, now that we found them, number one is we wanted to make sure that we're not crazy. Like, how could this be? So we actually went back to Israel. We spoke to a number of rabbis, and we said, we're going to do a delegation of rabbis to come and check this out. So we flew to the United States, a delegation of rabbis to come and inspect, and they were amazed by it. Rabbi Zaya Ariel, actually, in 2018, he said that in 2 years, we're going to have the year of Tafshin Pei Aleph. The year, it comes out to 5,783. 81. I mean, we're now in 83.
Right.
So, and he said this is before, 2 years prior to that year. We're talking a year and a half ago. And he said that the acronym of those letters,
which are the Hebrew letters which spell out the number 5781, which was the Hebrew year at the time.
Exactly. Comes out to Taf, which is Tehe, will be. Shin, Shana, the year. Pei, heifer. And Para, and Aleph, Aduma, the red heifer. So this is the year of the red heifer. So that's what Rav Azariah said. And this is way before I even met Rav Azariah, And let's fast forward to the year of Tafshin Pei Aleph. We were just starting to search for the red heifers. But the truth is that the ones that we actually found, they were in their mother's womb that year.
So let me say something again. How amazing is that? What they're saying is, there was a rabbi who said the year 5781 spelt out in some sort of code that this is the year of the red heifer. And these red heifers that they found were in their mother's womb the year, I believe it was 5781, he said that it was the year of the red heifer, that those numbers use that code to spell that out. So that's pretty amazing. So 5781 was the year of the red heifer, and that was the year these red heifers they found were in their mother's womb. This really seems like these are the red heifers, that one of them will be. It's amazing.
And then we're thinking, okay, what's the next year? Tafshin Pei Bet. Teheshnat Para B'Yisrael, the year of the red heifers in Israel. So we said that is our mission.
You just made it.
So yeah, exactly. So we're like, that is our mission, is to bring these red heifers to Israel.
So if I'm understanding correctly, he was saying either 5782 or 5783 is to bring the red heifers to Israel. I think he was saying that the word codes work out to bring them to Israel. He said the following year or something, and that's what they're doing. So they were in their mother's womb in the United States, but they were brought to Israel.
Then flew them a month. It took a month until the temperature was right, and they landed, and that was unreal. I mean, some of you guys maybe watched. Yitzchak here was very, very great in kind of watching and showing the world what was going on there. And whoever didn't watch it, definitely recommend. Watch the whole hour and 15. It's very, very special, very, very spiritual, and a very special moment. We're looking at the date. I mean, it's the 15th of September. What happened 2 years prior to when they came? Abraham Accords exactly on the 15th of September. So it could be that maybe God is, it probably is for sure. It could be that God's trying to say, like, all these Abrahamic nations, get back together,
So if you didn't hear, he just said that the red heifers arrived in Israel on the exact same date as the Abrahamic Accords 2 years ago. Sorry. How? The red heifers arrived in Israel, the exact same date, 2 years prior, the Abraham Accords were made on the exact same date they arrived. Now he's going to go into some other part talking about how all religions should get together and everybody will be one and all this stuff. Literally, he goes into a whole long thing about Jews, Muslims, Christians, Hindus, and everybody. They're going to be one. And that's the point of getting them all together. Like, they're all going to get together as one. That is the Abraham Accords, that we all are one together. That's literally the Bible. When they tried to do that once before, the Tower of Babel, that whole, we're strong, we can do it all together and all this stuff. That didn't go well. But anyway, they're doing it again. And this guy, obviously he has well-meaning wishes. He's well-meaning. But he literally goes into a long thing about how, because the Abraham Accords were written on the same day as the red heifers, and this is not a coincidence. No, I don't believe. He's saying he believed it was God. And that's the next step, is for everyone to come together as one. And, if you want to hear that whole thing again, I'm pinning the whole thing in the comments, but I'm just going to skip that part and just go on to a few other things and then close out at the end.
Something is going on here, like that, to Solomon he couldn't understand. We don't really understand, but we do know that we need to do what God, commands us. And, miracles are happening all the time. They landed, as you said, exactly 12 days or so before the end of the year of the red heifers in Israel. Mm-hmm. And now we're in the, Tafshin Pei Gimel. We're very excited for this coming year. They're here in Israel. They went through, they had to go to quarantine in Heifer, and then they're now not far from Beit Shan. And they're doing well. We're feeding them. We're taking care of them. So that's everybody. All the listeners should understand is that once we have this red heifer ash and we're able to create the ceremony and everything, it's bringing the Jewish people, but the whole world, into another phase.
So I'm just going to end it there, because then he starts talking about his ideals of what this new world is going to look like and stuff like that. So you can listen to the whole thing, like I said, on your own. But he said a lot of interesting things. He talked about the Shemitah year and this being like this amazing time period. Like I said, the fact that they arrived on the same days as the Abrahamic Accords. He mentioned their age and stuff, but when I looked into it and researched, it sounds like they have to be 2 years old and 1 day. So I don't know exactly when they were born. I don't know if that article was perfectly right, but it said they have to be at least 2 years old and 1 day. But in 5781, he said they were in their mother's womb. So that would be 2 years ago. I don't know exactly time-wise there, but we're very close. So I think there's something I've heard that they could be up to 3, but I do know I read an article that says they're supposed to be at least 2 years and 1 day. So they're in and around that time now. So he said a lot of interesting things, and basically they obviously are waiting, and they're going to inspect and make sure that they don't have any disqualifications, but it's looking really promising. So I'm sure you guys, or some of you guys, have heard this stuff already, but I haven't really heard it from this perspective, and him telling his personal view, this rabbi, about how he found these heifers, and the fact that these were like these Christian ranchers who have been thinking about trying to do this for God because of the book of Numbers and Leviticus since the 90s. I mean, this whole thing was pretty amazing. And just like I said, when they arrived, the fact that it just ended the Shemitah year, going into the year of Jubilee, and that in the Bible codes for the year 5781, it was the year of the red heifer, and that's when they were in their womb. And then 5782 or 5783, I'm not sure what he meant by that, but basically the code worked out to the red heifers come to Israel. So, it's playing out like it's supposed to. So, I think that's pretty much it. I just thought that was encouraging and a really cool update. And it was just looking at it from a different point of view. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was interesting to you. Like I said, if you want to hear the full thing, there's not a ton more. And a lot of it was his belief and ideals from his rabbinical standpoint of what's going to happen next in the world. This, it's kind of like the millennial reign, but in a different way, where, instead of Jesus coming, many Jews believe in the two messiahs, where there's Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph, where they have one messiah is like suffering and one messiah is like a conquering, and he like brings everybody together and makes peace, because they have to reconcile. I believe it's Isaiah. I think it's Isaiah. where it talks about, the Messiah will be bruised for your transgressions, and he will be, well, all the things that happen to Jesus, that it's like he has to be suffering, a suffering servant. But they can't understand, how can he be both? How can he be suffering and also a conqueror? So they have like these two. And I'm not saying this particular guy believes that, but that's what I've heard a lot, where that's how they reconcile it, that there will be two. And so they're looking for that to happen. And the guy who comes and makes things right, he's going to make this peace on earth. But yeah, so that's how they reconcile that, and they believe that. So I just left some of that out because we believe differently, but at the same time, it still works, because the book of Revelation talks about how there will be a time where there will be that one world government, and there will be, a proposed peace, and obviously the 7-year peace agreement, and that is going to, obviously go into what the Bible says. So it is going to happen like that, just in a different way. But yeah, anyway, I won't get into all that. I just thought it was really interesting because there was so many things that he connected there, that seemed, they weren't coincidences, and just how God is working and moving. And in the Jewish nation, that, it says that there will be a remnant, and they will believe on Jesus, that they'll believe. So that's obviously what we believe, that it says biblically they're in a time where they don't, they're blinded for a season, so that the fullness of the Gentiles can come in. So, but that we are to pray for Israel, and it's the apple of God's eye, and all these things. So that's why these Christians obviously want to bring it on. They want to bring it on as much as there's Muslims who want to bring on what they're trying to bring on. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's very similar to this time of euphoria and perfect peace and all that stuff. And just like the Jews want their time. So it's interesting that all the monotheistic religions all are trying to bring this about. And they all believe they're right. We all believe we're right in our own way. But yeah, we will all see how it all turns out. And we 100% believe Jesus is going to be coming back and making everything right, but for real. And that every eye will see, and every ear will hear when he returns, and every knee will bow to him. So praise Jesus. And yeah, this was really interesting. Hope it blessed you guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I wanted to talk. Oh yeah, there was one other thing. Let me just post something up real quick. I forgot, this is something else I wanted to say, that in the Jerusalem Post, this was an older article, but it said it's not the first time a non-Jew have helped provide a red heifer to the Jewish people. And I don't know if you heard him telling the story about the significance of the fact that this rancher had a brother who was a jeweler, and that there was a very similar story in Jewish history. It's in the Talmud, I believe, so it's not in like what we use as the full Bible, because they use the Torah and the Tanakh, but the Talmud, I believe, is other Jewish writings. But it's the story of how a red heifer was provided, and it was related to a story of one of the high priests losing a gem or something. But basically, there was this whole similarity. So here's a little write-up about it. I won't read it. I just wanted to say that that's another huge coincidence. So yeah, just that this story happened already in the past, almost the same way. And the other big thing is this is the 10th red heifer to be sacrificed. So the Jews kept record of this, and there's been 9, and this is the 10th. And 10 is it's like a number of completion. I don't know why we believe that, but I know I've heard that before, and I do think it's true. Like, we have 10 fingers, 10 toes. It's just like a complete thing. So for this to be the 10th red heifer, it does feel like it's just like a definite completion. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I hope that blessed you guys and was interesting. And to me, it just says that this is time sensitive. They have to be a certain age. This is all very time sensitive before it goes out the window. And I'm about to make another video, or try to, with regards to other time sensitive matters, things that they can't last forever. We can't just ride on these things forever, and I'll explain after. So very interesting. We can't just just continue certain things on and say, hey, this is it. These red heifers, if they're, 4 years old, it's like, no, this is not it, So these things are time sensitive, and I find that very interesting. So anywho, I'm going to leave it at that, and I will talk to you guys again soon. And if you want to read the whole thing or listen to the whole thing, like I said, it's at the top of the pinned comments. So until next time, God bless and shalom.